It's time for Vivid Talk, a coaching conversation to cultivate your visionary lifestyle. I'm your host, Gwen Witherspoon, Better Life Coach. We use my proprietary Vivid model for growth and development to get us started, but it's not a real conversation without you. So join in. Visit vividtalkradio.com for details. We've got a great show for you today. Glad you're here. Welcome to Vivid Talk. I'm Gwen Witherspoon. Today's episode of Vivid Talk Radio is brought to you by Flip Productivity. And it's a prelude to the new season of Vivid Talk. New co-hosts, new focus, new episodes, all slated for this fall. Before we get started, let me tell you how you can join the conversation. Post your comments on our blog, share in social media, or visit vividtalkradio.com to start a Coach on Call chat. Welcome to Vivid Talk. I am Gwen Witherspoon, and I'm sitting here with Michele Trotman Fraser Scott.
Almost.
Which way?
It's Michele Fraser Trotman Scott, and I go by Shelley. So Shelley Fraser Trotman Scott. My students call me Dr. FTS.
Okay, I like it. Okay, so students, tell us who you are and what you do, and what kind of students do you have?
Okay, so my name is Michele Fraser Trotman Scott, Dr. FTS. I am an associate professor at the University of West Georgia, and I'm also the director of graduate studies in the College of Education. My area is in special education. I am in that, that is my discipline, which under that umbrella also includes gifted education. So I'm from one gamut to the other. I go from special education, those that have some type of deficit, to those who have that excel in different areas. So that is my area. From The Ohio State University, I'm a Buckeye.
Okay.
The Ohio State University. So that is what I do. And my students typically are teachers. I teach mostly graduate students. And so I teach the teachers.
Okay.
And so my focus is in urban, gifted, and special education.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to have a vision.
I do.
For that.
I do.
Well, and so tell me, how do you instruct your students around that? How do you get from just being, clinical and, just
so I'm a person.
technical.
I'm a person who uses a lot of vignettes. A lot of situations. I'm about taking theory and putting it into practice. And so one of the issues that I found, because I used to be, I was a teacher, I was a principal, I was a superintendent before I came to where I am now. And what I found while I was in the classrooms is that I was not necessarily prepared for the students that I was teaching. I had a lot of book knowledge, but I didn't have the knowledge to put it all into practice. The reason why I was successful is because I feel that I had parents who kept me in the know, who exposed me to a lot of things. So I was able to draw on past knowledge so that I can help the students with whom I was interacting. And so I realized that. So then when I got into, when I was a principal, I started going in, because as a principal, I was the instructional leader of my building. So I would go in and I would talk to the teachers and explain to them and tell them why it was good for them to say specific things, why it was harmful to say other things, give them other ways to do things. And then the same thing as it was when I was a superintendent. I went through a divorce from my first husband, and I had, at that point in time, I had a young daughter. And so I wanted to shift because I knew that I needed to have more time to be a good mother in my standards. Yeah. In my standards, I wanted to be a good mother and not be held hostage, I felt, at that particular time, from Sunday to Sunday, doing work. And so I decided to come into higher ed. And at first I had a difficult time, but then I also then realized that I had a greater impact in higher ed because I would be dealing with teachers. When I was a teacher, I only could deal with 30 students at a time. But when I got into higher ed, and if I was teaching 3 classes, and in 3 classes, there were at least 30 students in each class, then you do 30 times 30, it's just a larger impact. And I tried to catch them early. I remembered what I didn't know. Mm-hmm. and I tried to teach them what I did not know to help them be prepared for the students that they would interact, with whom they would interact.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk about things. I use past knowledge. I have a lot of a lot of knowledge that I had because I worked with students who had cognitive disabilities, as well as those who were extremely smart but had emotional disturbances. So you had the runners. I had students that were on parole. I had students that were on probation. I had students that were expelled for drug use and drug selling and those type of things. So I would explain that to these students. I would explain them to them, and I would just sometimes go into character with the students, and they would look at me like, "Oh, I can't believe it." I'm like, "Well, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? Are you going to respond in this type of way? Or how is your face going to be? Let's work on your face. Look in the mirror. Make sure and have somebody just say the craziest thing that they can say to you, but your face has to stay straight because students can pick up on when you don't like them and when you have an issue with them." So that's just what I did. I used a lot of background knowledge to sort of put it in their face so that they can then begin to deal with it now. I'd rather them make the mistakes in my classroom than with these children.
Yeah.
And there was a time when in undergraduate school, I can't remember where it came from, but there was a shirt that I had and it said, "Young minds are fertile grounds. Take care of what you sow." And that is just it. That's it. And so that's what I really try to work with them and tell them that, they're just kids. And the way that we respond can have an impact on them for the rest of their lives. So.
Wow. Wow. Well, I really love what you said about just really going into character, giving them some real, almost real life situations so they can get an idea of how they can apply exactly what.
Yes.
Yeah. Instead of, and even as, our audience as entrepreneurs, we have these ideas about business. I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted to start all of the Vivid brands and really speak to the visionary lifestyle, because I feel like traditional business training, it's almost lifeless.
Right.
It's from point A to point B, get a business plan, get this, write this down, get this permit, get this done. And it can kind of trick an entrepreneur into thinking that if you do these steps, you will have a business.
Right.
But you have to breathe life into that business in order for it, because just because someone else went through all of those steps doesn't mean that you're going to go through the steps and get the same result that they got, or even that the results you think they are getting.
Right.
That you, and so I love what you're saying about being able, you could see beyond just those students in front of you.
Because you have students, you have students who have a 4.0 GPA.
Yeah.
As smart as they are. And then, because I have instances with students in my choruses. I have a student that has a 4.0, and then after student teaching, they told me, I don't want to do this. It's because they weren't built for that. And then I have a student who failed multiple courses, had to retake a lot of things, and the school loved him so much that they made all the accommodations that they needed to make so that he could remain in their school. So that just tells you that there's a difference between knowing the craft and actually being the craft.
Yeah. Wow. Yes.
So there's a difference.
There is a difference.
And there's a lot of people that are great business people, but if you don't have good customer service, if you're not a nice person, if you don't know how to treat your employees well, then it's not going to last, and it'll just be you doing everything. And after a while, you get worn out.
Yeah.
Or worn down.
Come on.
Or played out.
Any one of those is not good, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I love that, because that's really about, and you know, I do branding as well.
Yes.
And so from a branding standpoint, from a productivity standpoint, you have to tap into who you are as
Yes.
a person. And I love what you said about the student who had the perfect grades, but was like, this isn't for me.
Right.
And I think we have to learn how to build our businesses and whatever we're trying to accomplish, our families,
Yes.
our relationships. We got to build those based on who we are and not what somebody else, you know, some standards that we think somebody else may have set for us, you know?
Right.
I love that.
And we have to be careful not to fall into that trap. I specialize in being Michele Fraser Trotman Scott.
Come on.
And if I try to be Gwendolyn Fay, I'm not going to do so well at that because I'm not Gwendolyn Fay.
Right.
Do I like some of the things that you do? I love it. I love some of the things that you do. And I can also glean from things that other people do. But I have to then tweak it so that it works for me. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have. They see a person who is successful. They see something in a person that they like. And then they say, I'm going to do it just like that. I'm going to follow her plan. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then you realize that it doesn't work for you. And then depending on where you are in your head space or your spiritual space, you may feel like you're a failure.
Right.
But really, you're not. It's really that you're trying to be something that you are not. God has created you to be you. You know, we all are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so we have to do what God would want us to do and not necessarily what we see other people doing. You know, it can be a rendition of, but it's not going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you know, too, times change.
Yes.
So just because someone else was able to build something or do something a certain way, you may have a similar makeup, and there may be so you have an affinity with them, but then you're coming along at a different time.
Right.
So maybe now the landscape is so much more competitive that how they did it won't work now.
Absolutely.
Come on. And so what we're trying to do, I love it. We're trying to copy and be like everybody else. But I think it keeps hitting me. I love the fact that you have this breadth of experience and then can come to the classroom and give these real life examples for people to be able to kind of test themselves against.
Right.
And I feel like that's where real learning happens.
It does.
And that's like the crux of productivity.
Right. It is.
You can know something, but you can have information and not understand the information that you have.
Right. Until it actually gets thrown in your face. And then it's like, oh
wait.
So this is what it meant when, this is what she meant when, you know, and there are some people who feel like they'll never get to that. And so, and that even happens around my dinner table. I'm a mother of 3. I have a mother of 3 children, 2 bonus daughters and my biological daughter. And so I learn a lot from them too. What's going on in the classrooms, what's going on outside of the classrooms on social media. Just, they have different things that I never had to, even when I was in the classroom, I didn't have to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
And so now I'm learning that type of thing. And so for me too, with that, I write things down because a part of my responsibility as a professor is I have to be productive. I have to write. I have to publish. I have to present. I have to do all those different types of things. And so when I hear certain things that they tell me, I write it down. And I used to have Post-its all over the place, or I used to just put it on different pieces of paper. And then of course I would lose it.
We're talking to Michele Fraser Trotman Scott. She's an associate professor and director of graduate studies in the College of Education at the University of West Georgia. After this commercial break, we'll continue our conversation and learn how she is using the Flip Productivity Flipbook to capture her thoughts, document ideas, and be more productive. At Flip Productivity, we've made planning simple with the Flip 5 principles of planning. Look within. What is this dream that you have? Look up. Why is this worth doing? Look around. What's in your hand? Look ahead. What's the vivid view? Look back. How far have you come? Flipproductivity.com. Plan, produce, play. Welcome back to Vivid Talk. I'm your host, Gwen Witherspoon, and we're returning for the second half of my conversation with Michele Fraser Trotman Scott, affectionately known as Dr. FTS.
A part of my responsibility as a professor is I have to be productive. I have to write. I have to publish. I have to present. I have to do all those different types of things. And so when I hear certain things that they tell me, I write it down. And I used to have Post-its all over the place, right. Or I used to just put it on different pieces of paper, and then of course I would lose it. Right. Because you know there have been times when I would have whatever you have, you write it down. Napkins, right, pieces of paper, a church bulletin, whatever you have, you write things down, and then you start piecing together something so that you can have a manuscript that you can start writing. And so I still do that. Yes. But and so now I'm going to talk about the Flipbook that came.
Shameless plug. Right. We'll take it.
Yeah, it's a shameless plug, but it's a true plug. Yeah. Again, here we are putting theory into practice. The word says, write your vision to make it plain. And I got the Flipbook, Flip Productivity book at the first Vivid party that you hosted. Yeah. And I have to be transparent and honest that I got that Flipbook and I had in my mind, I'm going to do this. I'm going to use this. Yeah. This is perfect. I love it. I'm going to use this. But I didn't use it. I became a blockage for myself because the Flipbook is so well put together that at that particular time, I felt that my plan had to be so put together before I can put my Flipbook into practice. Yes. And it's funny because even when I talk to my intercessory prayer group people, I would give them, because I am a visionary. I come up with a lot of ideas. But a lot of times they don't come into fruition. I can talk to someone else. I can help them get from the beginning to the end of their project. And then I will praise them and I will be happy for them. Yes. I do not covet them or anything else. But then I sometimes look at myself and say, like, now, why can't I just do that for myself? And I find myself stuck. Or sometimes you find yourself moving at a pace, as I say, moving at a pace of a snail in quicksand. And so, that's a pace. Right. And so, it's just like, what is my problem? Why can't I do things? And then I would even say on the call, oh, I have this idea and I'm going to use my Flipbook. And then I would write it in another book or I would write it someplace else because again, I was looking at the Flipbook as I can only use it for one project from the beginning to the end. Yeah. But then I was charged, one of my intercessory prayer warriors said to me, write it down. Just write it down and just start using it. And I actually did. Yeah. And I'm using the Flip Productivity book the way that best suits me. Yes. That's it. And I think, and that's just the thing. And so I still have my Post-its, but all my Post-its are in my Flip Productivity book. And I use one side to just say, this is the big goal. And then I flip it over and I write down, okay, this is what I'm going to do on this particular day. And there's pages in the book that have times there. I don't necessarily use them for the times, but what I do is I just list it there. And then I put what time it was when I accomplished that goal. I love it. And so it works for me, and I think that I will. Do I think I will progress to the point that I will be using the book in its entirety the way that it is supposed to be designed? I do. But the fact of the matter is I had to use the book. Come on. And so I did. And I used the book. And so that's where I have all of my thoughts. That's where I can go back. And when it's time for me to write something down, it's like, now what did I say? Or what? I can go to that one place. Yeah. And I can still write on my Post-its, but I can post it in that book and I can go there. And so, that's how I've been able to remain productive with regards to, my presentations and my publications. When things happen, no matter what it is, I write it down, stick it in my Flipbook so that I can go back to it It may be a month, it may be 2 months, a year, but I can go back to it and I can always write about it.
Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, well, I mean, first of all, I'm a teacher as well.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I'm gifted as a teacher.
Yes.
But I don't teach in the classroom. But that's probably one of the reasons I love coaching, because I really love
That's
helping
teaching.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it, and I love seeing people, like helping them grow from one point to the other.
Right.
Back in the day, I used to do direct sales, and building a direct sales team. The best thing in the world was helping somebody else earn a diamond ring or reach whatever sales goal and get their card, whatever. All those things, so exciting. And so you've got to just get so much out of seeing your students.
I do.
Progress, and when the light comes on.
I do.
What's that moment like?
Oh, it makes me feel really good. So another thing that I have to do in is they do an evaluation. They evaluate us on an annual basis on how we've done. And so because of that, I gather the perspective of my students. Mm-hmm. I do a course perspective at the end of the class, it's just basically, what did you learn? How are you going to utilize this information? What do you think should change? What should, I do that type of thing. And so for me, when I read those perspectives, it just warms my heart, because, this is when they tell me, I never thought about this. When you gave us this simulation, or when you had us read this article and reflect, I never thought about these different types of things. And it has changed the way that I think. It changes my perspective. This has changed my life. And so for me, when that happens, it's like impact is gone forth. I've done what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that's why I came here. I thought that I was coming because I needed to have the flexibility to raise my daughter. But really, I was coming because I needed to have the impact on those who were going to have the impact on others.
Yeah.
And so I just want them to be better prepared.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that, it's like, okay, I've done it.
It was such a joy to have Michele Fraser Trotman Scott in the studio. Her Flipbook experience makes me want to take a moment to talk about the Flip productivity system and the principles that it's based on. The slogan is plan, produce, play. Plan your work, produce what you have planned, and spend more time at play. And play is not more time at the beach, although there's nothing wrong with that. It's letting who you are define what you do and how you live your life. Flip productivity is an action planning system of coaching, tools, and workshops. Its core tool is the Flipbook. The Flipbook is two-sided. One side is for planning, flip it over, and the other side is for producing. Visionaries can use it and apply the Flip 5 principles of planning and my Vivid model to write their vision. As you define what you want to accomplish, you have to master 5 habits: organizing, tracking, acting, waiting, and scheduling. Our minds are bombarded with thoughts every day, every moment. I call that the brain storm. If you're going to clear the brain storm to produce what you have planned, you need the tools to do that. Now, let me back up and give you some history. In the 90s, I started designing my own planner. At the time, daytimers and other systems like it only gave you space for a typical workday. As an entrepreneur, I worked around the clock 7 days a week. I had grown accustomed to keeping track of my time in 15-minute increments at the advertising agency I worked for. So I created a timesheet for 24 hours each day. As smartphones took over, I didn't need my planner idea anymore, until I started helping a friend manage a media project in 2011. I pulled out my trusty timesheet to track my time on the project. I also amassed a pile of notepads to document the many meetings. I needed my paper and my digital tools, but it was quickly becoming unmanageable. The Flipbook was born out of my practical need for a way to capture my thoughts, track my time, and keep everything in one place. I decided to leave the dates on the calendar and the timesheets blank so that it could be used at any time. It is spiral bound with elastic closures so that it's a true workbook. Now, here's a little shout out for waiting for the vision. Although the printed planner was always intended to be the core product, there were digital components that I wanted to develop. I just didn't have the resources or the understanding of how to execute them. I kept using my Flipbook, and others around me did the same for over 5 years. In 2016, I kept seeing printed planners promoted everywhere. It was a confirmation that I had been onto something all along. And remember those other components that I didn't know how to develop? Well, technology caught up, and I can see clearly how to do them all now. My Flip productivity vision became vivid instantly, and I'm seeing the need for its practical application every day. Now, what about you? Do you need to be more organized? Do you need to get more done? Do you need a way to manage your vision? Whatever system you use, it will work, but you have to find a system that you will actually use. Shelley described a very common problem that I see with my clients who purchase a Flipbook. Most will delay using it because they want to do it, quote unquote, right. The fact is, there is no right way. Flip productivity is a system that is based on sound practical principles, but it's intentionally flexible so that it can be adapted for the needs of the user. I'm glad Shelley finally got started and found what works for her. Getting more organized and more productive is just like anything else. You have to start somewhere. Here's a quick coaching moment. If you're a visionary, each of your ideas is at different stages of development. They won't all come to fruition, but they'll have a better chance if you write the vision and start making it plain. That's what the VIVID model is based on. It's an acronym that describes the process of making it plain. It stands for vision, identity, voice, information, and development. Though you may have gotten very skilled at cataloging them in your brain, the fact is that your mind is a finite space. Once you document an idea, you give it a place to grow, and you free up space in your brain for next steps and more ideas. The notes that you jot down will become mini prophecies, and you can begin piecing them together to make your vision vivid and formulate your mission, your vision statements, your values. I call that the flip map because they help define your direction. As you are formulating your plans, you have to keep working, right? Of course. The actions you take every day decide whether any of those ideas will ever see the light. We all have the same 24 hours. I call that the 24 principle. You can produce more with your 24. I suggest dividing your responsibilities into projects. That's the first step to clearing the brain storm. Next, you need a way to track and schedule your time. The busier you are, the more important it is to have a digital and a print system for your whole life, not just for work. Once you get organized with your vision in the forefront, you will be able to make better decisions about exactly how to spend your time. After you identify the system and the tools, you have to exercise relentless discipline to use it, period. And no matter how talented, capable, or accomplished you are, you can always benefit from the support, encouragement, and accountability of a coach. Almost every top performer you can think of had a coach. Check out flipproductivity.com and email me at gwen@gwenwitherspoon.com if I can be your better life coach. Thanks for listening to Vivid Talk Radio, a coaching conversation for visionaries. A special thanks to our sponsor, Flip Productivity, an action planning system to help you plan your work, produce what you've planned, and spend more time at play. Visit vividtalkradio.com to follow us and make sure you never miss an episode. Join the conversation by speaking your mind, posting your comments, sharing in social media, and tagging @VividBrands. You've been listening to Vivid Talk Radio with Gwen Witherspoon. Join us each Wednesday at 5 p.m. and get vision for every area of life. Visit vividtalkradio.com for more. Until next time, make it vivid.